Carson Beck, Dylan Gabriel, and Quinn Ewers are the favorites, but is there a dark horse lurking in the race for the Heisman Trophy? We'll talk about that and more in today's edition of College Football Smothered and Covered, powered by Lock.
You are Locked On College Football Smothered and Covered with your host, Barrett Sally, your one-stop shop for everything college football. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, welcome in and thank you for making College Football Smothered and Covered, powered by Locked On, your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast and, of course, on YouTube as well. We are part of the Locked On Network, your team every day. In today's episode, brought to you by Gametime, today's episode is loaded with a bunch of talk about games, and you need to go see those games, right? So go to the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege. That's LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Download Gametime today. What time is it? It's game time, and right now it is time to talk about the Heisman Trophy. We can sit here and say, it's going to be Quinn Ewers. It's going to be Carson Beck. It's going to be Dylan Gabriel or whatever. Those are easy. We'll talk about, I will tell you my pick for the Heisman Trophy a little bit later. But what fun is it to say, well, one of the favorites is going to go on and make it? Even if you believe that, it's no fun. So we're going to talk about dark horse Heisman Trophy candidates. And the way I view a dark horse is this. You look at those odds, and even guys like Dylan Gabriel, Carson Beck, and Quinn Ewers have, plus 1,200, plus 1,000, plus 850. So there's still long odds anyway, but anything above plus 2,000, I view as a dark horse. And the one that's below that jumps out to me more than anything else is Texas A&M quarterback Conner Weigman. I love Conner Weigman. This is a guy who, yes, he's been injury prone, but he is in a perfect setup to win the Heisman Trophy. I'm a voter. I look at the Heisman through the lens of this. How important are you to a team? Value, so to speak. Video game statistics, just purely statistics. What are you doing? And are you leading your team into a national championship race or a college football playoff race? That's a lot easier to do this year. So you're going to get a lot more options, a lot different names, a lot of different schools that could have players put in to that discussion. And Texas A&M, I think, is a perfect sort of team to have that recipe, because the recipe for success is, hey, you know what? People want something new. Voters want something new. Texas A&M can provide that spark, right? They fit into that, hey, this is different sort of realm. So Conner Weigman has that working for him. He has, when he's healthy, been one of the best quarterbacks in the sport. 16 touchdowns, 2 interceptions throughout his career. And people forget, before he got hurt against Auburn last year, he was one of the best quarterbacks in college football through 3 games. You go back and look at it. He was one of the most effective quarterbacks in college football. Now, I know folks will say, well, he's injury prone. Really? Is he? Is he injury prone? Because when he got hurt last year against Auburn, I think anybody in America would have been injured on that play. So yes, it happened and it sucks, but I kind of view injury prone as, I think, okay, are you actually just getting hurt because you're you, or is it just bad luck? And to me, for Conner Weigman, it was just bad luck last year, and that's okay. So I don't factor that in. But what is interesting for Conner Weigman is that he's got the pieces around him. Yeah, I know Evan Stewart's gone. That wide receiving core, led by Moose Muhammad, loaded. They can roll 5, 6, 7 guys out there, and that creates a problem all over the opposing defense. Mike Elko understands, hey, for this season to be successful, you have to play to your strengths. And the strength is the passing game. There's a reason NFL scouts absolutely love Conner Weigman, despite the fact that he has less than 10 starts under his belt. So at plus 3,000, what is it going to take for Conner Weigman to actually be a legitimate Heisman Trophy contender? Well, A&M needs to be in playoff contention. They don't need to be in the SEC in the chance or SEC championship game. They just need to be in playoff contention. So there's going to be, what, 4 or 5 teams in the SEC that are in playoff contention? I think a lot of people feel like Texas A&M can be on the sort of periphery of that discussion. And so what does that mean? The periphery of that discussion means you could be going into the Texas A&M versus Texas game on rivalry weekend, and everybody's going to be looking at Conner Weigman because of that game. Other things too, but because of that game. So what if they win? Even if they don't go to Atlanta, voters will remember that. Voters will remember, hey, that dude won the first Texas A&M game in more than a decade. So that matters. It's a long shot. It's not a no shot by any stretch of the imagination. Now, the second dark horse, and it's even further down the list, that I don't even know if people know this guy all that much, and that's Kyron Drones at Virginia Tech. He didn't really get into the mix till a third of the way through the season last year. He played for Virginia Tech and nobody really cared or whatever. But he was one of the most dynamic players in the country, and nobody seemed to know. 17 touchdowns, 3 picks, 818 on the ground and 5 touchdowns. That was as he's sort of learning on the fly, right? Now you have a lot of that production back offensively. I think the culture that Brent Pry has created in Blacksburg is one of a champion. And I say they can do it, but it's one like a champion. It's the same kind of culture you have at Georgia, at Alabama when Saban was there. That's the kind of buy-in that Virginia Tech players have. Because Kyron Drones could have gone to a lot of places. Believe me, he wasn't fielding calls. He was getting calls. I don't think he was fielding that many of them, which is, again, goes back to the culture. And again, Heisman Trophy voters, Cinderella, video game numbers, where do you lead your team? All of those things are together, right? Video game numbers, if Drones is healthy, he's going to have that. Value to a team. Yeah, I mean, if they are successful, it's going to be on his back. But here's the interesting thing. Is Virginia Tech a college football playoff team? I think the initial reaction that everybody would say, like, hell no, right? Have you seen that schedule? It is absolute cake. So if Virginia Tech just gets to the ACC championship game, right? They have a chance to not only go to the playoff, but get a bye. What are due 2 days after the conference championship games? Heisman ballots. So we could be looking at a situation where this dude is playing in an ACC championship game, which looks a little bit easier now that Florida State already has that loss. The schedule sets up well for them to at least contend for that ACC championship game. And he could be on the biggest stage in terms of the Heisman at the right time. So you're talking about Kyron Drones at plus 6,000. I am absolutely willing to put a little money or to put a little sprinkle on that one. Because if you don't know Kyron Drones, get to know him, because he's going to be one of those unsung superstars or underrated superstars, under the radar guys that maybe by the middle of the season, you're looking around going, okay, I see you. You know what I also see? And this is, I mean, I'm going deep dark horse on this one. Deep dark horse. Plus 20,000. 20,000 plus 20,000. My guy, Garrett Greene at West Virginia. Now, you might see this kid sooner rather than later because they play Penn State, and I think they're going to beat Penn State in the season opener on Saturday. But plus 20,000 for a guy who went 16 touchdowns, 4 picks, rushed for 772, had 13 touchdowns on the ground, and is in a situation now where the offense is stable. He understands his players. He has a connection with these players that he's worked on all off season. And he's with the quarterback coach who we trust, a new one, who, from what I've been told from people in and around the West Virginia program, has helped Garrett Greene pick his game up multiple notches. Do I think Garrett Greene's going to win the Heisman Trophy? Probably not. Is he good enough to get to New York? Yes. And again, what happens if West Virginia emerges from the Big 12 in a Big 12 championship game? What if they go in to championship Saturday essentially in win and you're in mode? That could happen because I think West Virginia is the most underrated team in the country. And I think the Big 12 is one of the wildest conference, is the wildest conference in the country. Don't sleep on Garrett Greene. Plus 20,000. That is a deep, deep, deep dark horse. And I'm not here to provide gambling advice. I think that's against the law. Just going to nudge you in that direction. But again, it's the Thursday morning before the real season kicks off. So I got to tell you mine. I haven't told you mine yet. Mine is Quinn Ewers, plus 1,200. If you saw my SEC picks, if you've seen my college football playoff picks, I have Texas in the college football playoff. I actually have Texas running the table in the regular season and then losing to Georgia in the SEC championship game and the 5 seed in the college football playoff. But you're talking about Quinn Ewers, video game stats. Obviously, the value to his team will be there, and I think his team will be the talk of the college football world for pretty much the entire season. So, yeah, get to know Quinn Ewers because I think he is the guy who's going to take things to the top in terms of the race for the most prestigious trophy, individual trophy in American sports. Hey, this show brought to you by Gametime. You know you want live events, no matter what kind. You love live events. There are a lot of live events this weekend all across the country. There are plenty of college football games that you want to go to, that you know you need to go to, and Gametime has you covered. Curated deals make it easier to find the best price on game seats. You can see the seats before you buy. The lowest price guaranteed. Event cancellations protected. Job loss. All of that stuff is included in Gametime. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app. Create an account. Use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account. Redeem code LOCKEDONCollege, LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? It is game time. Show also brought to you by FanDuel. You've heard us talk about FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Well, we have a little something different for you now through September 22nd. All FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then, with a YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out of market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel at any time. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon to download America's #1 sportsbook. Welcome back. So it's time for questions. You've got questions. We've got answers. Well, I'm going to try to have answers. Might fail at it, but it's Q&A time. We're going to do Q&A a lot on this show. I don't know what day. My whole world is disjointed. after going to Dublin, coming back on a Monday, doing a show on Tuesday. Then I had to drive to Birmingham for family stuff today on Wednesday, got back Wednesday night doing the show. I honestly don't even know where I am right now. Even though I see myself in the studio, I don't really know where I am. So we are going to do Q&A at a set time, a set day every single week. For now, we're going to do it today because tomorrow games do kick off. So Andre on Twitter, he is a fan of both Georgia Tech and LSU. Better year, Georgia Tech or LSU? Then he also has the caveat, could Georgia Tech have a better record and be the better team? So I am so high on LSU. I don't think, first of all, I love Georgia Tech. We had Brent Key on the show. He told me exactly what was going to happen in Dublin. Run the dang ball. That's exactly what happened. He's built that team in his image. I love what he's done. And the schedule's still difficult, right? I think it's one thing if a team like, or at least a team with a coach who has a tradition of history, a record you can look at and say, okay, that track record's there. It's very, very possible that Georgia Tech slips up multiple times because they've never been in a position, or at least in this generation, where they have to sustain success. LSU has more national championships than everybody outside of Alabama over the last quarter century. So even though the players change, the program still remains the same. But I think with Georgia Tech, the schedule's still tough, and they're probably going to slip up one or two places. They also have to play Georgia. Obviously, that's a problem. LSU, the schedule is cake. I'm really high on Garrett Nussmeier. For LSU fans who ask, why didn't you put him in your Heisman conversation? Well, he's not a dark horse. He was, I think, plus 1,600. I think LSU is going to go 10-2 and make the college football playoff. I said that. You can go back and look at it in the college football playoff show. Also, you can see that tagged or pinned on my X account. So I think LSU is going to be better, and I think LSU is going to have a better record. I absolutely love what this offense can do. And the reason I say that is, sure, Jaden Daniels is gone. Sure, Malik Neighbors is gone. Sure, the offense is going to be coordinated in a different way. It's going to look a different way. But that, to me, is so interesting because LSU's offense, in terms of running the football, essentially was, well, we're going to do Jaden and then one or two things here and there. I think it was mostly zone. Now they're going to run all kinds of stuff with that deep stable of running backs. They didn't have to do that last year. They, I think, feel like they want to and need to, and they can. And that's the thing is, like, with LSU, you're going to have to, as a defense, prepare for a completely different team. Denbrock's gone, but it's more that Nussmeier is going to provide something much different. And even though he can't run anywhere close to what Jaden Daniels does, it gives LSU the chance to really open up the offense. And I think they're going to do that. Will Campbell said they're going to go get a fist fight. They're not going to Caesar's Palace. They're going to go and get into a fist fight in Las Vegas. I think he's right. And I think they're going to do that all year. And so I think Georgia Tech, the record's going to be solid, but I do think they slip up in a couple places because, again, the track record for success is not there. It's hard to do that. It's Brent Key's very new at this himself. Now, he's seen a coach in Saban, been on staffs where you can sustain success and know how that sort of works. But it's different when you're in that big office. It's different when you have somebody else answering your phones in that office. So, again, good season, Georgia Tech. You know I love you, Brent Key. I know I know you watched this show because you came on it, but before that, you said you liked it. Pat myself on the back a little bit there. But I love LSU. I love LSU. All right, next question. Sam, who was on Instagram, is Deion showing weakness? The Deion Sanders portion of the show. Yes. Yes, he is. Deion has never faced adversity in his life in terms of succeeding on the field of play. He's not succeeding. And I don't think that he feels his message to transfers has been as widely embraced as he felt it would be. His star power is not as bright with the people and the players who need to be on your roster, who need to be on your staff to win national championships. So, yeah, he's showing weakness. You don't ban people from press conferences for reasons that they have nothing to do with. The CBS local reporter, like, he had nothing to do with whatever CBS did that pissed Deion off. And he even said that in the retort. He's like, I'm with local CBS, not big CBS. And Deion said he didn't care. Well, why are you so pissy? Deion knows how this stuff works. He understands media. Like, he understands the difference between a local guy, a national guy, a writer, a columnist, a radio. He knows all that stuff. Can't play dumb and say you don't. You're just being a jackass. Now, I know in his contract, there's a clause that says he doesn't have to answer questions from anybody else. And that's why he refuses to answer questions from Sean Keeler, the Denver Post. Why does it matter? Are you that butthurt that people don't believe that what you're doing is going to lead to on-the-field success? There are a lot of those people outside of the Boulder, Colorado, Denver media market. A lot. Don't have a problem talking to them. Talking about you, ESPN, Fox, probably NBC when they have the Nebraska-Colorado game. Have no issue talking to those people. You viewed your local beat guys in a lesser world if you're Deion. Like, that's how he operates. He'd never tell any of those big networks they can't ask questions. But he wants to assert power. He still feels like he needs to be Big Bad Deion. Go back to Tim McCarver back in the 1992 World Series or NLCS, whenever it was with the Braves. You're a big man, Deion. You're a big man. For those who don't remember that fantastic dust up between those two when Deion was with the Braves, go look it up. But yeah, Deion, he doesn't know how to handle it. He doesn't know how to handle professional adversity in the sense of what he's doing is not succeeding. Because even if you lose as a defensive back or you strike out, like, you still know that, hey, you're doing this the right way. You're still going to be successful. Not every time, but successful. I think what you've seen from him shows that he realizes this is not working the way he thought it was. And speaking of butthurt, he's a little butthurt because of it. It'll be fascinating to see what happens this year because that team is not good and that schedule is brutal. We'll take a break. We'll talk a little bit about those rule changes and kind of how they're tied together because they are. We'll talk about it next. It's college football smothered and covered. Hey, the show brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. Gotta tell you, I was driving to and from Birmingham today with traffic about 5 hours. You know what got me through that ride home? 2.5 hour with traffic ride home. It was a 5 Hour Energy. I needed gas. Stopped at the gas station. I said, you know what? I need that. I need that to get me through these final 100 miles. And man, it worked. It got me going. Gives me the shot of alertness. Needed that alertness. Hey, you know what? Driving, sometimes you kind of get lost out there. Alertness and energy. I got it. I got through it, man. I got through it with zero sugar and convenient portable size is the perfect pick-me-up for getting stuff done. The 5 Hour Energy website has flavors galore like watermelon, tropical burst, grape, berry, and more. If there's a flavor, they have it. Flavors for everyone. You can try them all. On the site, you even the option to build your own 12-pack or 24-pack. You choose the flavors, and it's delivered right to your door. If you go to 5-Hour Energy, that's the number 5, 5hourenergy.com and get your 5-Hour Energy product. You know what? You can use the promo code Locked On CFB, Locked On CFB, and receive 20% off your order. This order is only valid through September 30th, and one order cannot be used with other promotions. The code is not good on subscription orders. Go to 5hourenergy.com today, 5hourenergy.com. Use promo code Locked On College and receive 20% off your order. All right. Last segment of the show here. The rules that came out that are not locked on, pun very much intended, but are not locked in. They'll be voted on in October. 2 of them came out. It was that the spring transfer portal window is going to be no more, and that it would be just the winter one. Excuse me, starting with the first Monday, I should say, after championship weekend. The second one is that the blanket waiver that the NCAA has provided ever since COVID that allows players to play in bowl games and not count that toward their 4-game red shirt is now approved again. But they made sure they included FCS playoffs, bowl games, conference championship games, college football playoff games. So you're talking about a player playing 4 games in the regular season and then 5 more and not burn a red shirt? Those things are correlated. First, we're not going to talk about the transfer portal. There's no right way to do the transfer portal. There'll be lawyers, whatever they decide, they're going to screw. There's going to be people that are pissed off. Nothing's going to change until things are collectively bargained when it comes to that. Nothing. You can't put toothpaste back in the tube. So you already have these 2 portal windows. Players are used to it. If you take it away, lawyers are going to be like, hey, bro, let's make some money. So we're not going to talk about that part of it. But these 2 are correlated because the blanket waiver that allows players to play in the postseason and not burn a red shirt year, it makes sense just in the sheer spectrum of, hey, you're going to have players transfer. You need to field rosters. It was LSU after Coach O got fired. They played in the Texas Bowl with 2.5 scholarship players. I joke, but it was more like 39. But still, that's not nearly enough. So now you can basically load things up. But here's the thing. Remember last year, Malik Murphy from Texas entered the transfer portal. Texas was still in the college football playoff. He entered the transfer portal. He ended up at Duke. He's going to start for them. But he felt like he had to in order to get a jump start on his new career, which is perfectly fine. There are going to be a lot more of him, both for teams that are in the playoff, but also teams that aren't. So again, it goes back to creating a way for your roster to still be competitive and keep players from having to play positions that they're not used to. I can't remember the LSU quarterback, but it was a wide receiver. I think he plays the wide receiver in the CFL now. You don't want that. So what essentially this is doing is allowing lower tier bowl games to serve as spring games on steroids. It's great. It's fine. It's perfect. And I think moving forward, this is not going to be a 1-year blanket waiver, although I have said that ever since COVID. It's going to be a permanent rule. It's going to be a permanent rule. Well, then make it a perfect rule. Even in October, and I guess they don't have to vote on this. It's a blanket waiver. It's already been approved. But why are we doing this on a year-by-year basis? Just make it permanent. What's the harm? Nico Iamaleava for Tennessee used this last year. He's still a redshirt freshman. He played last year, started the bowl game, obviously did well. Tennessee fans are hyped about him, rightfully so. But he's still a freshman because of this rule. And that's a good thing because who was going to start that game? If you already knew that Joe Milton was gone, what was going to happen? So I like it. Hey, thanks very much for watching this edition of College Football Smothered and Covered, powered by Locked On. I cannot wait. Thursday, we're going to make some predictions on Thursday night games. We're also going to do a Thursday night postcast. So we got a lot going on. So make sure you subscribe, share, hit that notification button, all that stuff. If you're listening, share it with your friends. If you're watching, subscribe, share all that stuff. Do everything. If you know how to do the podcast thing, I think you kind of know how to share podcasts. So please do that. I would greatly appreciate that. Hey, for your second listen, since, of course, this is your first lesson, go check out Locked on College Football. From NIL deals to never-ending conference realignment rumors, Spencer McLaughlin gets you ready for an exciting season on the gridiron. You can find the link to Locked on College Football in the description below, so you don't need to search for it. Part of the Locked on College Podcast Network, your team every day. Next time we talk, folks, it'll be game day. Again, the second game day of the 2024 football season. Have a great one.